What's up, everybody? It's Chase Bassett with Ellerbrock-Norris. Today I want to shoot a quick video around the difference between classifying an individual as an employee versus an independent contractor. Now, there's several reasons why an employer would want to classify an individual as an independent contractor. Mainly, number one, to reduce risk, and number two, to save money on employee benefits and workers' compensation costs. Now, it's important to remember that just because you pay somebody on a 1099 basis does not mean they are in fact an independent contractor. And one of the things I want to touch on is we see this in all industries. Construction is a big one, but we also see it in manufacturing, distribution, healthcare, etc. All depends on the scope of work of that individual. Now, when determining if an individual is an employee or an independent contractor, the courts, and here in Nebraska, we use a 10-point test in making this determination. Other states have similar rules, and I'm not going to go through all 10 today, but I did want to highlight some of the main ones in making this determination. So the first one being the method of payment. Now, in an employee-employer relationship, there's typically a salary or an hourly wage, and that's how the employee is paid, as opposed to an independent contractor where they're paid for a specific job and the scope of work of those services. The second one being who is supplying the tools and equipment to do the job. Typically for an employee, the employer is providing those materials, whereas an independent contractor, they're typically required to provide their own materials and equipment to do the work. The third one being, it depends who the customers are. Now, obviously, an independent contractor typically has multiple customers that they do work for, whereas an employee is typically only working for that specific employer. The fourth one being who sets the hours and the job duration. Typically, the employer is setting that for the employee, whereas an independent contractor has control of their own schedule. The fifth one is supervision and direction. Typically, the employee is controlled and supervised by the employer, whereas independent contractor is on their own. They supervise themselves. And the last one I want to touch on is the contractual relationship. Now, obviously, with an employee, there's an employer-employee relationship in place. With an independent contractor, there's typically a separate contractor agreement based on the scope of services that employer is requesting or needing. So those are the ones that I just wanted to hit on. Again, it's not all 10, but the most important that we feel are out there in making this determination. Now, there's big implications for an employer. First of all, if there's ever an incident where that independent contractor is hurt on the job or they're responsible for bodily injury and property damage to a third party, and they are in fact classified as an employee based on this 10-point test, that employer could be on the hook for any damages that arise based on the specific situation. So that's really important piece. Another piece to this is knowing that possibility of that individual being classified under the employer's workers' compensation, liability policies, etc. An insurance carrier is going to make sure any independent contractor we work with has adequate liability and workers' compensation coverage at a minimum. And at a time of an insurance carrier audit, I'm sure some of you have experienced this in the past. If you can't show via certificate of insurance that those independent contractors in fact do have their own insurance coverage, you're going to be charged for all of that payroll paid to that independent contractor because that insurance carrier is just assuming that there is potential that this independent contractor could in fact be classified as an employee and our policy could respond. So they're going to charge you for that even though an incident never occurred. So it's really important to make sure if somebody is in fact an independent contractor that we are making sure they have proper and adequate insurance coverages in place, and also that we're transferring the risk down to them via contracts. Now, it's much easier said than done. If you have any questions on that or the 10-point test, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help, and have a great day. Thanks.